Okay, so first, why actually using story maps? There are a growing number of web portals that aim to support climate adaptation. And Swart even published about it, and he spoke of the proliferation of portals. So there seem to be many, many portals that want to support adaptation. But still the question is, only because they exist, it doesn't mean that they are being used. So how can we make these portals usable and relevant for users? And as I said when I introduced ourselves, we have developed a portal in the Netherlands, and we had many user discussions. And what users told us is that it's very important to provide some examples. So do not only show the data, but also show how the data can be used and what it can be used for. So provide some inspiration and enable also some kind of learning or exchange amongst users. And story maps can be one possibility to provide this kind of guidance. So to tell a story about how we can actually use the data that is provided within Glorious in the portal. And this is why we want to use story maps. All right, so what are actually story maps? You see a picture in the right-hand corner of a story map. So story maps are interactive maps that you can combine with other media. So with text, for example, with pictures, with photos, or with videos. And they were produced by Esri, which is one of the biggest mapping companies in the world. They are accessible for everyone, so you can open them in a browser or on your smartphone. And they were particularly designed for non-technical audiences. So it's really a user-friendly tool. Okay, the story maps usually follow a very similar setup. So usually you would have a main stage where you see a map or a picture or a video. And then very often you would find a side stage where you can get additional information. So you can get some text to explain what you see on the map or to provide some additional information. You could show the legend or some figures. And this is a basic setup that you will find in many story maps. But there are many, many different types of story maps. And we want to show you some examples now. So let's show you this one. So this is a story map. I open it in a browser, and it's called Disappearing Glaciers. And here you have the main stage. So you have a map of the world with some glaciers that they want to focus on in the story map. And on the left-hand side, you have a description. And you can scroll down, and then you get some more information. So here's the first example about a glacier that is disappearing because of climate change. And you see a photo of the glacier and also how it developed over time. So if I click the photo, you see a picture from 1900 and you see a recent picture. And you can further scroll down and you have some graphs here, and you move on and you can get some other information about other glaciers. So this is one example of a story map. You can also, on the main stage, we see a picture now, a map, and you can zoom in to get to a specific location, or you can also zoom out. Then you have an overview of where we actually are. All right, this is one example. Let's give you another example. This one I really like. It's called A World of Circles. And it's, if you have some time, I really can recommend you to Google story maps, because there are so many different story maps all over the world addressing very different topics, and it's really fun to have a look at them. So this is one that is about circles. So the developer obviously liked the shape of circles. And in this story map, you have different tabs that you can click. And if you click the tab, you get different circles. So the first one is a volcano. Let's see some other examples. Here you see some, a settlement that looks like a circle. Or a photo of Place Charles de Gaulle in Paris. So there are different examples. This is also a way of, this is also a story map that I want to show you. And once you click to the map towards the end, you have an overview map of all the circles that the developer found for this story map. All right, so this is has been 2 examples. Now there is a different format that we want to show you. This is very good if you want to combine 2 maps. So it's called a story map Spyglass, or a swipe. And what it allows you is to combine 2 maps, make an overlap. And for us, this gives us a possibility to include scenarios. Because what we can do is to show on the main map, we can show, for example, the current situation. And within the spyglass, so in the lens, you can put a second map of the situation, for example, in 2050 under a specific scenario. And there are 2 possibilities. You can either use this lens, so like a spyglass, or you can use a swipe. And let's show you an example. They follow a very similar principle. So here you see now the Himalayan region, and we have 2 maps here. On the main map, we see the amount of days per year that have a minimum temperature above 30 degrees. So you can see in yellow, it's 1 to 5 days. And in the spyglass, so here in the lens, if I move it, you see the same indicator, but for 2050 under RCP 8.5. So you can see that many yellow areas, they will move to red, which then means 30 to 45 days per year. So this is one way of comparing 2 maps with this spyglass. The second possibility can be seen here. It's called the swipe. And here you have extreme precipitation. And on the on the left-hand side, you see the current situation of extreme precipitation. And if you now use the swipe, you see the same indicator for 2050 with climate change. This is again a possibility to compare these 2 maps. All right, so these were 2 examples of different types of story maps. So we have seen what the story map could look like in the end, but now we want to discuss how can we actually work together on story maps. So we know story maps very well, and we have developed several story maps, and we have an understanding of climate adaptation, but we don't know the use case very well. So this is where you come into play. So we need your help to develop this story map. So let's look at this figure. So we're going to have the portal with the great data. What we need from you is that you select relevant graphs and indicators for your use case, and that you tell us what are important indicators for your use case. So this is the data side, but we also want to provide some more information. So we want to develop a storyline. So we want to tell the user what the use case is about, why the user is concerned with climate change, and how you tackle it within Glorious. So this is what, when we move to the storyline, where we also need your help to get some information about the user and the use case. So once we have this information, so we have some data and we have a storyline, then we will bring it together and develop the story map. And we will also provide you, we will support you also in this process. So to keep it short, we will do all the technical stuff, and we need some content from your side. All right, speaking of content, you've already seen that you can add different media content to a story map. And this is just a quick overview of what you can include, because the story map is not only about maps, but also about different media. So the first one, as we've seen, you can add maps, and they will be based on the portal. Then we can add some explanations, so some text. And there it's important to keep it short, because we don't want to provide complete information, but the most interesting ones. So yes, we want to have text, but rather short text. Then we can add photos, and this is really a powerful way of improving the story map. So if you come across good photos of your use case, please collect it, because we can use it later on for the story map. You can include videos and also graphs and figures, and we will get also some of them from the portal. All right, so now one practical thing. How can we actually share the story map? So during the development, so when we select indicators, when we make maps, when we develop the storyline, only you will be able to see the story map, so it will be private. But once it's finalized, we will share it with everyone, we will make it public, and will be accessible to everyone. And I think that's also important to have in mind, because you might not want to show very sensitive data, because you need to realize that after all, we want as many people as possible to view our story maps.